Hello everyone, welcome to Learning Academy Foundation from Mr. Andrea. Today I would like to you about the English program for lower secondary. So the first section will be about spelling, where the students will see that with a little knowledge they can work out the meaning of words they have never seen before. All they need to do is to identify the parts of the word. Then they we see that turning one into many isn't always simple as adding an s, so they will learn how to spell plural nouns. They will see that suffixes are attached to the end of a word using a few spelling rules with some exceptions, so they will learn how to use the right suffix. And they will say it can be difficult to remember how to spell some words, so they will learn how to memorize tricky spellings. And finally, they will find out how to use a dictionary to help them spell and discover new words. The next section will be about punctuation, where the students will see that when punctuation is not used or used incorrectly, sentences can become difficult to read and understand. So punctuation is a very important, useful, and powerful writing tool. Everything the students need to know about brackets, what they are, and how to use them in different ways. Colons are punctuation marks which can help the students to introduce lists, introduce quotations, include extra information, and separate closely related clauses. And also not as final as a full stop, but stronger than a comma. The students will learn how a semicolon can either join or separate words. The students will find out how to separate items in a list using semicolons. And they will learn how to punctuate quotations in an essay using examples from a source text. So using quotation correctly in their essay is important for supporting their points. Learn about punctuation. The students will say dialogue makes a story engaging if they make it clear who's speaking. So they will learn how to structure and punctuate direct speech in fiction. They will find out how to use apostrophes to show possession and for when letters are omitted from words. They will discover what a comma is. They will learn how to use commas to punctuate sentences. And finally, they will learn proofreading techniques to check their writing for mistakes and improve their writing. The next section will be about grammar, where the students will find out if language can exist without grammar. They will learn how to use tenses and the differences between past, present, and future. They will have a look at how to use the present tense when constructing their sentences. And also, they will learn how to write complex sentences to expand a short sentence and to add more detail or meaning. The students will also learn how to link ideas in writing by using conjunctions to link two ideas, contrast them, or show cause and effect. And they will find out how and when to use the passive voice in their writing. Still about grammar, the students will find out how to use the modal verbs and what subordinating conjunctions are and how to use them. They will learn more about adjectives, including descriptive, quantitative, superlative, and comparative adjectives. They will discover what a noun is. And also the students will learn about verbs and how to use paragraphs to link ideas and sentences. The next section will be about fiction critical reading, where the students will learn about how historical, social, and political contexts and life experiences can influence writers and be reflected in their writing, and what a theme is, how to identify themes in a text, and the important differences between themes and motifs. They will see that characterization enables writers to weave stories that are believable, purposeful, relatable, and driven. And also, they will learn how a fictional setting can help with characterization, create atmosphere, act as a symbol, and reveal the genre of the story. The students will also see that writers also use symbols to add deeper meaning to text, creating meanings and associations in their minds as they read. And analysis is an important skill to learn and practice in English. It helps them to explore and understand the writer's craft. Still about fiction critical reading, students will learn to look at how a writer's word create an effect, what their consequences are, and how those words influence their emotions and understanding. And also they will see that Gothic literature is a genre of fiction which first became popular during the 18th century and which evokes an atmosphere of mystery, fear, or terror. They will see that the structure of a narrative in a work of fiction, whether linear or non-linear, shapes the reader's response to it. And metaphors, symbolism, and vocabulary are all deliberate choices made by fiction writers. And when they find unfamiliar vocabulary or an unknown word, the students can find many clues to its meaning right there in the text. Next section will be about fiction writing, where the students will learn how to engage the senses and use adjectives, imagery, alliteration, and onomatopoeia for descriptive purposes. They will say when writing fiction, a writer carefully chooses the point of view. So a point of view is the perspective of the story, the way the story is told. They will learn how to use language for effect and see how word choices can bring their characters and settings to life. And also they will see that writers shape their stories to create an emotional response in their reader. The students will learn how writers shape their stories and use structure in order to create an emotional response in the reader, and how to writers shapes the stories and use structure in order to create an emotional response in the reader, and how to engage the reader in the opening paragraph of their story with attention-grabbing first line, and how to use linguistic devices such as similes and metaphors to add flavor to their writing by making evocative, sometimes surprising comparisons. The next section will be about non-fiction critical reading, where the students will see that non-fiction texts are everywhere, from class textbooks to diary entries, from newspapers to social media posts, from instruction manuals to film reviews. They will see that language choice is important when they are writing for different audiences and purposes, as is avoiding bias. They will see that the broad range of nonfiction genres has an equally wide range of writing styles, so they will learn how to investigate the language in nonfiction texts. And they will see that the way a text is structured can affect the reader's response, so they will learn how to investigate structure in non-fiction texts, and also that non-fiction texts vary depending on their purpose, intended audience, structure, and language choice, so they will learn how to compare non-fiction texts. The next section will be about the non-fiction writing, where the students will connect ideas in the writing, join sentences and paragraphs together, and make the writing easier to follow. They will see that plans are where they can put all their ideas and then cross out anything that becomes unimportant. They will say that persuasion is one of the most important skills they will need in life. It could help them to find a job, seize a new opportunity, or just grab a bargain. It's only the time. So they will learn what a travel article is, as well as the different purposes, conventions, and audiences of travel writing, and how to write like a journalist, creating memorable headlines and writing informative articles. In nonfiction writing, the students will see that an autobiography is a life story about oneself. It can be a book, a collection of letters, diaries, or memoirs. They will discover differences between formal and informal writing, and they will learn the conventions of standard English. They will say that when writing to persuade, they have to use a formal impersonal tone and consider all points of view, so they will learn how to build an argument. They will say that a powerful speech uses a variety of techniques to capture the listeners, so they will learn how to write a speech. And finally, they will say the formal letter needs to follow a set layout and use formal language, so they will learn how to write a formal letter. The next section will be about essay writing, where the students can use direct quotations to make their point about a piece of writing, so they will learn how to use evidence from a text. They will say that an essay needs to be well structured and carefully planned, so they will learn how to write an essay. An introduction should outline their key ideas and hook the reader's interest, so they will learn how to write an introduction to an essay. A conclusion is where they link back to the question and briefly restate their main points, so they will learn how to write a conclusion to an essay. And finally, stories are made distinct through their settings, genres, characters, and use of language, so they will learn how to compare fiction texts. The next section is about reading poetry. When reading poetry, a reader will interpret what it means to them. So everyone's response is different. Students will learn about how writers use imagery, the impact of imagery, and how it appeals to the senses. Ballads can be based on real-life events or created purely from the imagination to tell tales of romance, mystery, and even magic. And also, they will discover the conventions and the history of short form poetry, such as haiku and limericks. Students we learn about the convention of a sonnet, the difference between Shakespearean and Petrarchan sonnets, iambic, pentameter, and rhyme schemes. Rhythm in poetry and how it can be used as device which has an effect on the reader. Closed form poetry use strict patterns of rhymes and stanzas, whereas open form poetry is free form. So finally, the students will learn how rhyme scheme and stanza length can be clues to a poem's form. Next section will be about understanding poetry. So the students will master the tricks of poetry with perfect rhyme, half rhyme, and rhyme, masculine rhyme, feminine rhyme, and internal rhyme. Slam poetry or spoken word poetry is an art form that lets them put across their point of view and express their emotions using the power of words, rhythm, and rhyme. And finally, they will discover how they can draft their own poetry using examples from Wilfred Howells and Team for Doomed Youth. The last section will be about spoken English, where the students will defeat the opposition and win the debate by being clear on their topic and creating a successful counter argument. By working on their performance skills, their voice, and their planning, they can become a speakers to challenge the very best. They will learn about the difference between accent and dialect, the brilliant variety of accents and dialects in the English language, and the way writers can use dialects in fiction. Slang is the name used for a type of informal language that is more often used in speech than in writing. And finally, do they ever wonder how technology has influenced the way we can use language? That's all about English program for lower secondary. You can see my contacts below in the slides or in the description. Thank you for your attention, students and parents. See you next. Bye.